Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into a really complex, fast-moving military situation unfolding in the Middle East. If you've been glancing at the news lately, you know tensions out there have spiked yet again. It's not just a localized ground dispute anymore. We're talking about a multi-domain conflict. It's happening in the skies over major cities and right down in the waters of some of the most vital shipping lanes on Earth. Today, we're sticking strictly to the latest reports and data to figure out exactly what's going down on the ground, in the air, and at sea. We're going to map out these aerial interceptions, the geopolitical retaliations, and crucially, how all of this acts as a massive shock to global energy markets. We've got a lot of fascinating, high-stakes info to cover, so let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. We aren't just talking about, some tense diplomatic phone calls here. We're talking about literal jarring explosions echoing across the United Arab Emirates. It got so intense that a nationwide red alert was officially issued. I mean, just imagine the gravity of that for a second. Emergency sirens blaring, authorities urgently telling everyone to stay indoors and strictly follow emergency instructions. This massive alarm was triggered by the UAE's air defense systems activating all at once to take on incoming aerial threats. It absolutely sets an intense stage for the military maneuvers we're about to break down.
Section 1. Missiles and Interceptions.
So the UAE officially confirmed their defense systems had to intercept a highly sophisticated, multi-pronged assault. They were dealing with a simultaneous mix of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and weaponized drones. This wasn't just a one-off strike. It was a highly coordinated, multi-layered offensive aimed squarely at their airspace. The fact that they had to track and counter all three of these vectors at the exact same time, that really highlights the insane strategic complexity of this threat. It forced an incredibly high-stakes defensive response right over major civilian and commercial hubs.
And look, even with successful interceptions, whenever you have high-tech weaponry colliding in the sky, you've got a severe risk of things hitting the ground. Case in point, authorities in Abu Dhabi reported a fire breaking out near the old Abu Dhabi airport, right after an incoming threat was detected. Now, it is important to note the damage was relatively isolated. First responders were on it super fast, and the fire was swiftly brought under control. But honestly, this specific incident just shows you the razor-thin margins between a successful mid-air interception and massive infrastructure damage.
Section 2. Crisis at the Strait. Now, at the exact same time all of that is happening in the air, clashes are unfolding in the Strait of Hormuz. This strait is an incredibly critical and, honestly, deeply vulnerable geographical bottleneck. Any instability here instantly ripples out and impacts the global economy. Why? Because a massive chunk of the entire globe's commercial energy supply has to physically float through this one narrow stretch of water. It's a strategic choke point where a regional dispute immediately turns into an international economic emergency.
And instability is exactly what we're seeing. Iran has directly targeted commercial shipping right there in the Persian Gulf. Specifically, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, stated their naval forces actually fired upon and seized two commercial vessels right in the strait. According to the IRGC themselves, they took this extreme action because they claimed these ships had ignored warnings. Regardless of how you look at it, from an economic or security standpoint, military forces actively firing on commercial ships in the world's most sensitive energy corridor, that's in massive escalation. It triggers fresh, urgent concerns for literally everyone globally.
Section 3. Accusations and Retaliations.
Let's look at how the different sides are actually framing this conflict. On one hand, Iranian media has explicitly accused the United Arab Emirates of assisting U.S. military operations in the region, using that to frame the hostilities. On the flip side, you've got U.S. CENTCOM stating that during these clashes between U.S. and Iranian forces near the strait, American warships intercepted incoming Iranian attacks before going ahead and launching their own defensive counterstrikes. So you have both sides actively claiming defensive or retaliatory necessity. And really, that's exactly how the anatomy of escalation deepens in this region. And this brilliantly illustrates how the cycle of retaliation extends way beyond just military assets, directly into economic warfare. Following a reported attack on an Iranian bank, the IRGC issued a very stark, direct threat to target U.S. and Israeli-supported economic centers and banking institutions within the region. We are seeing a dangerously blurred line between military targets and economic hubs. I mean, when financial institutions become explicitly stated targets in a military conflict, it significantly raises the stakes for every single entity operating in West Asia.
Section 4. The Global Energy Shock.
You simply cannot have this level of physical disruption in West Asia without the markets noticing. Global energy markets are reacting really sharply to this escalating conflict. You've got traders and economists watching these seizures in the Strait of Hormuz, the missile attacks over aviation hubs, and they are immediately pricing all that anxiety right into the market. The fear of a sudden, catastrophic disruption to the global energy supply chain, it's creating intense turbulence on trading floors all around the world right now. So, what is the actual data telling us today? Well, the numbers paint a picture of an incredibly tense balancing act. Following those initial disruptions caused by the war in West Asia, there was this big, concerted international effort to stabilize the global supply. And hey, because of that effort, international oil prices did drop slightly from their previous record-breaking peaks. However, and this is a big however, even with that slight drop, oil prices remain at stubbornly, significantly elevated levels. The market is essentially holding its breath. That heavy premium we're seeing on energy prices reflects the reality that this conflict is far, far from resolved. I want to leave you with a final question to ponder today. When a handful of drones over Abu Dhabi or a naval skirmish in the Strait of Hormuz can instantly send shockwaves through the entire global economy, we really have to ask ourselves, how fragile is our global energy supply chain in the face of these ongoing West Asian conflicts? We've seen today how localized military actions immediately threaten international stability. Grasping the mechanics of these clashes is absolutely crucial to understanding the broader global stakes. Thank you so much for exploring this highly complex explainer with me, and I encourage you to keep questioning how these critical events shape the world we live in.